Apparently, discovering your husband's affair during your morning coffee isn't what they mean by eye-opener in the Starbucks ads. There I was, Tuesday morning at 6 a.m., standing in my kitchen in Fairfield wearing my ratty Yale hoodie and penguin pajama pants, when my sister Alma materialized at my front door like some kind of infidelity-detecting angel of doom. And let me tell you, when your real estate agent sister shows up before sunrise on a weekday without her makeup on, someone's about to lose their house. Or in my case, lose their carefully constructed suburban fantasy. Ruby, is Griffin here? Did he actually go to Boston? Alma's voice had that particular pitch that makes dogs bark and wives panic. Yeah, he left Sunday for that architecture conference. Won't be back until Thursday. Why? I was still holding my world's okayest wife mug, a gag gift that was about to become uncomfortably prophetic. She pushed past me, locked my door, actually locked it, like we were in some kind of thriller movie, and pulled out her phone with the energy of a prosecutor presenting Exhibit A at a murder trial. Perfect, because he didn't go anywhere. I saw him last night at the Cheesecake Factory in Stamford. She swiped through her phone. With Karina. I'm pretty sure my brain short-circuited. Karina who cried on my shoulder for 3 months about her divorce. Karina who I invited to our lake house last summer to heal. Karina who attended my book club every other Tuesday and complained about how hard it is to trust men again. The photos didn't lie, and boy, did I wish they would. There was my husband of 12 years, the man who told me last month we needed to cut back on unnecessary expenses, sitting in a booth at the Cheesecake Factory. His hand was on her thigh. Her head was on his shoulder. They were sharing one of those ridiculous Oreo Dream Extreme cheesecakes that has approximately 4,000 calories and apparently comes with a side of homewrecking. When did you take these? My voice sounded weirdly calm, like I was asking about the weather and not staring at photographic evidence of my marriage imploding. Around 8 p.m. I was there with a client closing a deal on a condo, and I spotted them in the corner booth. The same booth we sat in for your birthday 2 years ago, by the way. I thought about confronting them, but Alma's expression shifted to something between rage and pity. I figured you should be the one to decide how to handle this. I scrolled through 17 photos, each one worse than the last. There was Griffin feeding her cheesecake, Griffin laughing at something she said, Griffin's thumb stroking her wrist in that particular way he used to do with me back when we were still pretending our marriage was a romance and not a corporate merger with joint tax benefits. How long do you think? I couldn't even finish the sentence. Does it matter? Alma grabbed my shoulders. Ruby, listen to me. You have until Thursday when he gets back to decide what you're going to do. But whatever you do, do not tip him off. Do not call. Do not text. Do not send a passive-aggressive Instagram story with sad song lyrics. She knew me too well. And definitely, she continued, do not tell Mom yet. You know she'll want to drive over here and set his car on fire. And we do not need that kind of legal complication right now. I nodded, still staring at the photos. My brain was doing that thing where it catalogs completely irrelevant details to avoid processing the emotional nuclear bomb. Like noticing that Karina was wearing the earrings I'd complimented at book club last month, or that Griffin was wearing the cashmere sweater I'd given him for Christmas last year, the expensive one from Nordstrom that I'd saved up for because he'd been working so hard on that downtown development project. Wait, a thought struck me like lightning. Thanksgiving is in 9 days. So it's at our house, like it is every year. His parents are coming, your family, his brother Wade and the kids, the Mitchells from next door, and I felt a smile spreading across my face, the kind of smile that probably should have concerned me if I were more self-aware. I already invited Karina last week when she was crying about having nowhere to go for the holidays since her ex got the house in the divorce. Alma's eyes went wide. No, Ruby, no. Do not do what I think you're about to do. I'm not doing anything. Yet. I set down my coffee mug with deliberate care. But I have 9 days. A guest list that reads like a revenge fantasy. And a sudden, desperate need to make this the most memorable Thanksgiving our family has ever had. This is either going to be brilliant or get you arrested. Can it be both? The thing about Betrayal is that it doesn't feel like the movies. There's no dramatic orchestral music, no slow-motion realization, no artistic montage of memories crashing down. It's just you, standing in your kitchen at 6:15 on a Tuesday morning, looking at photos of your husband's midlife crisis on your sister's iPhone 14 while your coffee gets cold and your dog, a golden retriever named Biscuit, whines at the back door because his bladder doesn't care about your emotional devastation. "Does Heath know?" I asked, referring to Alma's husband. "I called him last night. He's already got his laptop fired up. You know how he feels about cheating after what his brother went through." Alma's expression turned businesslike. "He says if you want, he can help you gather evidence. Heath's got access to your shared laptop at home, the one Griffin uses sometimes. If Griffin saved any passwords there, Heath can work his magic legally. No breaking and entering, digital or otherwise. Tell him yes. Tell him to find everything." I felt something cold and sharp crystallizing in my chest. Not quite anger yet, more like the emotional equivalent of dry ice. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. No half measures. No benefit of the doubt. No, maybe there's an explanation. That's my girl. Alma pulled me into a hug. For what it's worth, I always thought Griffin was kind of boring. Good-looking, sure. Successful, definitely. But boring. Like missionary position in human form. I laughed, actually laughed, which felt surreal and perfect and completely unhinged. "You're terrible. I'm honest. There's a difference." She grabbed her purse. "I've got a showing at 9, but I'm keeping my phone on loud. You need anything, and I mean anything, you call me. And Ruby? Yeah? Don't let him see it coming." After she left, I sat at my kitchen island for a long time, staring at those photos on my phone. Alma had airdropped them to me, while Biscuit finally gave up waiting for me to let him out and did his business in strategic protest on the foyer rug. I thought about the bedroom upstairs, the one painted whisper gray that Griffin had insisted on when I'd wanted that beautiful teal color. I thought about how much of my life had been painted in shades Griffin preferred, while my favorite colors got pushed aside. Even the dog knew something was broken. Griffin texted me at noon on Tuesday. "Conference is great. Miss you. Love you." I stared at those 3 words, "love you," while sitting in my home office with Heath's laptop open in front of me, displaying a spreadsheet of my husband's lies, organized by date, time, and level of audacity. Turns out, "I love you" loses its romantic impact when it's sandwiched between evidence of 17 motel charges in the past 5 months. "Ruby, you need to see this." Heath was in full forensic mode, his fingers flying across the keyboard with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd helped his own brother through a similar nightmare 2 years ago. Griffin's got a separate Google account. Amateur hour, honestly. He used his birthday as the password, and he saved it on your shared home laptop. Of course he did. My husband, the man who designed an award-winning performing arts center and charged clients 6 figures for his creative genius, couldn't be bothered to use a secure password or remember to log out of his affair management system on the family computer. "What's in it?" I asked, though I wasn't sure I wanted to know. "Everything. Shared calendar with Karina, restaurant reservations, hotel bookings. There's even a shared photo album titled Us." Heath's expression was somewhere between disgust and professional admiration. They've been documenting their relationship like it's a lifestyle blog. There are pictures from that bed and breakfast in Mystic you wanted to go to for your anniversary. The Mystic one. The place I'd shown Griffin on Instagram, circling the dates, mentioning how romantic it would be. He'd said it was too expensive right now, and suggested we stay home and order Thai food instead. When was that? September 16th. Your actual anniversary is October 2nd, right? I remember because it's the same day Alma and I went to that vineyard tasting. Yeah, October 2nd, 2012. 12 years ago at the Brooklawn Country Club, where his mother cried through the entire ceremony. Happy tears, I'd thought at the time, though now I wondered if Lorraine was just disappointed her son was marrying someone who wasn't good enough. Heath pulled up the reservation confirmation. Griffin checked in Friday, September 15th, checked out Sunday, September 17th. Maritime suite, king bed, champagne package. He scrolled further. And he paid with the credit card attached to your joint account. I laughed. Actually laughed, Because what else do you do when you discover your husband charged his affair to your shared finances? The same account I'd used that week to buy groceries at Whole Foods, where I'd agonized over whether the organic blueberries were worth the extra $3. How much? For the weekend? $647. But Ruby, Heath's voice softened in that way that meant more bad news was coming. It wasn't the first time. I've got Marriott, Hilton, and Holiday Inn charges going back to June. He's been using site visits and client meetings as cover. 5 months of this. My phone buzzed. Another text from Griffin. Boring panel on sustainable design. Can't wait to be home. Should we do date night Friday? Date night. As if he hadn't just had a 5-month date marathon with my former best friend. I typed back. Sounds perfect. I'll make reservations. You're scary calm about this, Heath observed. I'm not calm. I'm strategic. There's a difference. I stood up, pacing my office while Biscuit watched from his bed in the corner, probably judging my life choices. If I fall apart now, I might do something stupid. If I fall apart after Thanksgiving, I'll have witnesses, evidence, and the moral high ground. That's actually kind of brilliant. And the good news is, everything I'm finding is completely legal. He left himself logged in on shared equipment, saved his passwords on a family computer. Any lawyer would tell you that's fair game in a marriage. No hacking required. Thank God for his terrible security practices. Amen to that. What Heath found could fill a documentary series on the streaming service of your choice. Deleted text messages, recovered from cloud backup that Griffin had thoughtfully never disabled, because Griffin apparently thought delete meant gone forever, instead of stored on Google's servers for your wife's tech-savvy brother-in-law to access through your poorly secured account. The messages were a masterclass in cliché. Karina called him baby. He called her beautiful. They shared inside jokes about how boring and predictable their exes were, meaning me and her former husband, though at least her ex had the decency to cheat with someone who wasn't his wife's best friend. There were complaints about me. Griffin told Karina I was too focused on work and never wanted to do anything spontaneous. This from the man who needed 3 weeks' notice to try a new restaurant and once had a panic attack when I suggested a last-minute weekend trip to Martha's Vineyard. She gets it, Griffin had texted after their third date, which I now knew had happened during my marketing conference in Chicago back in July. You make me feel alive again. I wanted to text back from beyond the digital grave. You know what else is alive? Herpes. Should I be concerned? But I didn't. Instead, I forwarded everything to my personal email account, the one Griffin didn't have access to, and started building my case like a prosecutor preparing for trial. By Wednesday afternoon, I had a timeline that would make the FBI jealous. I knew every restaurant, every hotel, every late night at the office that was actually late night at Karina's condo in Norwalk. I knew they'd started talking at book club in June when we'd discussed The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, a novel about secrets and reinvention that now felt like foreshadowing written by a particularly cruel author. I knew Karina had complained about her divorce settlement, and Griffin had offered to help her figure out her finances. I knew they'd bonded over feeling unappreciated. I knew that on my birthday, August 23rd, while I was having dinner with my parents and Griffin was supposedly working late on the Morrison project, he was actually at her place watching a movie with her kids, playing substitute dad like he was auditioning for a role in someone else's family. The kids thing hurt worst. We'd decided not to have children. Mutual decision, long conversations, both of us agreeing our careers were enough. Except apparently Griffin's career wasn't enough, and someone else's ready-made family suddenly looked appealing when it came with a side of validation and home-cooked meals. Alma called Wednesday evening. How are you holding up? I'm fine. You're lying. I'm functionally fine. There's a difference. I was sitting in my kitchen, drinking wine that cost more than Griffin's affair motel rooms, watching the sunset through my window over the perfectly manicured lawn that we paid Miguel $80 a week to maintain. I've got enough evidence to bury him. Heath's a genius. He learned from necessity when his brother went through his divorce. I'm so proud of how he's using those skills for good now. Alma paused. Ruby, are you sure about the Thanksgiving thing? You could just confront him when he gets home tomorrow. Quiet divorce, split the assets, move on. And let him control the narrative? Let him tell everyone I was difficult or cold or whatever story he's already crafting? I took another sip of wine. No, I want witnesses. I want his parents to see exactly who their son is. I want Karina's mask to slip in front of people who trusted her. I want everyone who's ever sat in my living room and complimented our perfect marriage to understand that perfect is just performance. Remind me never to cross you. Your family. You get immunity. I checked the time. Griffin lands tomorrow at 2 p.m. I need to pick him up from the airport, smile, ask about his conference, and pretend the past 3 days didn't happen. Think I can do it? You're a marketing director. You sell ideas nobody needs to people who don't want them. You can sell anything. She was right. And what I was about to sell was the performance of a lifetime. Devoted wife, excited about Thanksgiving, completely oblivious to the fact that her marriage was a fraud and her husband was a walking midlife crisis with expensive taste in affairs. Griffin sent a final text Wednesday night. Can't wait to see you tomorrow. I missed you so much. I replied with a heart emoji, the red one, not even the fancy sparkle one, and then went to Costco to buy $75 worth of Thanksgiving groceries for the dinner party that was going to become the most expensive meal Griffin ever didn't enjoy. Thursday afternoon at Bradley International Airport, I stood in the arrivals terminal holding a homemade welcome home sign like some kind of deranged contestant on a reality show about women with terrible judgment in men. Griffin emerged from baggage claim at 2:17 p.m. I noted the time because I'm apparently the kind of person who documents her own humiliation now, pulling his carry-on behind him with that confident stride of a man who thinks he got away with something. He was wearing the navy blazer I'd bought him for his 40th birthday, and I wondered if Karina had complimented it during one of their cozy little rendezvous at the Fairfield Inn. Honey. He wrapped me in a hug that smelled like airport coffee and expensive cologne, the Tom Ford one I'd given him last Christmas, which retailed for $140 and apparently doubled as a fair cologne. I missed you so much. I hugged him back, burying my face in his shoulder, and thought about the 17 motel receipts currently saved in my email. I missed you too. How was the conference? Exhausting. Panel after panel about sustainable architecture and green building certifications. He kissed my forehead, the same forehead he'd kissed before leaving Sunday, when he was actually packing for a romantic getaway with someone else. But I got some great contacts. Morrison's going to love the connections I made. Morrison, his boss. The man whose name Griffin invoked like some kind of career deity whenever he needed an excuse to work late, travel unexpectedly, or generally be somewhere that wasn't home with his wife. That's wonderful, baby. The word tasted like acid in my mouth, but I smiled through it. I'm making your favorite for dinner tonight. Pot roast with those roasted carrots you love. You're the best. He grabbed my hand as we walked to the parking garage. So, what did you do while I was gone? Anything exciting? Oh, work stuff. Had lunch with Alma on Tuesday. She mentioned she saw the funniest thing at a restaurant in Stamford. Some couple who looked exactly like they were having an affair, all secretive and cozy in a corner booth. I kept my voice light. Conversational, like I was discussing the weather and not testing whether my husband's poker face was as bad as his password security. Griffin's hand tensed for half a second in mine. That's sad. I hate when people cheat. It's so disrespectful. I wanted to laugh, or scream, or possibly both simultaneously. Instead, I squeezed his hand and said, I know, right? Anyway, guess who's coming to Thanksgiving? Who? Karina. Remember, she was so upset about spending the holiday alone after the divorce. I texted her yesterday to confirm, and she's bringing Emma and Lucas. The kids are so excited. Apparently, Emma's been learning about the Mayflower in school. Griffin stumbled. Actually stumbled on flat concrete. That's really nice of you. Very generous. Well, she's been such a good friend to me. I unlocked the car, our Lexus SUV that Griffin insisted we needed for weekend trips we never took, especially during book club. She's so supportive, so understanding, really listens when I talk about marriage and commitment and trust. The drive home was a masterclass in passive-aggressive conversation. Griffin told elaborate lies about his Boston conference. I mentally checked each detail against his actual location history, which Heath had helpfully provided in a color-coded spreadsheet. He'd been in Connecticut the entire time, bouncing between Karina's place and a Marriott in Norwalk that offered weekly rates, and apparently no questions about guests who checked in for business during a supposed out-of-state trip. That evening, over pot roast neither of us really ate, Griffin asked about Thanksgiving preparations. "I've got everything planned," I told him, pushing a carrot around my plate. "Your parents arrive Wednesday night. Alma and Heath are coming Thursday morning to help set up. Your brother Wade texted yesterday. He and Simone are driving up from New Haven with the twins. The Mitchells from next door, obviously. My parents are driving up from New Jersey. And Karina with her kids makes..." I counted on my fingers like I was just now tallying it up and not planning this like a military operation. 17 people total. Wade's coming? I thought he said maybe. He confirmed Tuesday. Said the twins are excited to see their uncle. I smiled sweetly. It'll be nice having family together. All of them. At once, in one room. That's a lot of people. It's Thanksgiving. Go big or go home, right? I smiled at him across our dining room table. The farmhouse table we'd picked out together at that boutique furniture store in Westport 3 years ago, back when I still thought we were building a life instead of constructing an elaborate set for his performance of devoted husband. Over the next 6 days, I became someone I didn't recognize. Marketing director by day, vengeful mastermind by night. I confirmed RSVPs with the enthusiasm of someone planning a surprise party instead of a surprise divorce announcement. I bought a new tablecloth from HomeGoods. $60, but worth it for the aesthetic of my public humiliation. I ordered a turkey from the fancy butcher in town because if I was going to ruin Thanksgiving, we were at least going to have good food, and I built the PowerPoint. Heath had given me everything in organized folders. Photos, text messages, hotel receipts, location data, deleted emails that weren't actually deleted because cloud storage is forever, and my husband was an idiot. I spent 3 nights after Griffin fell asleep. He'd been sleeping great. Apparently, conscience-free living agrees with some people, creating 47 slides of pure, documented devastation. Slide 1 was titled, "An Architectural Analysis of How My Marriage Collapsed." Because if Griffin wanted to be clever with his career metaphors, I could be clever with my revenge presentation. Slides 2 through 15 covered the timeline with dates, locations, and expenditures. I'd color-coded everything. Blue for lies, red for money spent, purple for particularly egregious text messages. It looked like a corporate quarterly report if corporations reported on emotional fraud instead of earnings. Slides 16 through 30 were the photos. Chronologically organized, naturally, because I'm nothing if not thorough. The Cheesecake Factory, various parking lots, the Maritime Suite in Mystic that I'd wanted to visit, Karina's condo complex, each one captioned with the date and whatever lie Griffin had told me that day. Slides 31 through 45 were the text messages. The I love yous, and she doesn't understand me, and you make me feel alive, and every other cliché that apparently still works on people who should know better. I'd highlighted the messages where they discussed me. The boring wife, the workaholic, the woman who didn't appreciate what she had. Slide 46 was financial. A spreadsheet showing every dollar of our joint money that funded his affair. Hotels, dinners, gifts, weekend getaways. All itemized like a really depressing Costco receipt. Total spent, $4,732. Slide 47 was just one sentence in 72-point font. Happy Thanksgiving. Dinner is served. Tuesday before Thanksgiving, I called my parents. Mom, Dad, quick heads up. Thursday's going to be memorable. My mother, bless her, immediately understood. Ruby Ann, what did you do? Nothing yet. But I'm going to need you both to act surprised when it happens. When what happens? You'll know it when you see it. Just trust me. And maybe warn Dad to leave his heart medication accessible. Minha filha, what are you planning? My father's Portuguese accent got thicker when he was worried. Justice, Pai. Just justice. Wednesday night, Griffin's parents arrived from their retirement community in Rhode Island. Lorraine hugged me with her usual tepid affection. The kind of hug that suggested she was still disappointed her son hadn't married someone from their country club. Sterling shook my hand formally, because emotion was apparently against his personal constitution. "Everything ready for tomorrow?" Lorraine asked, surveying my kitchen like a health inspector looking for violations. "Everything's perfect," I told her, thinking about the projector I'd hidden in the hall closet and the HDMI cable I'd tested 3 times to make sure it worked. It's going to be a Thanksgiving none of us will ever forget. I wasn't lying. Thanksgiving morning arrived with the kind of perfect autumn weather that felt like the universe was setting the stage for a performance. 52 degrees, cloudless sky, leaves in full New England glory. The kind of day where everything looks picture perfect right before it all goes catastrophically wrong. By 10 a.m., my kitchen looked like a Williams-Sonoma catalog exploded. Griffin was actually helping, playing the role of devoted husband with the commitment of a method actor, while I basted the turkey and mentally rehearsed my PowerPoint presentation like I was pitching to hostile investors instead of destroying my marriage in front of God and 17 witnesses. Alma arrived at 10:30 with Heath, both of them carrying casserole dishes and the barely contained energy of people watching a car crash in slow motion. Heath set up the projector while Griffin was in the garage getting extra chairs, running the cable behind my grandmother's china cabinet, where nobody would notice until it was too late. "You're really doing this," Alma whispered while arranging green bean casserole on the counter. "I'm really doing this. I'm equally proud and terrified. Can it be both?" Guests arrived in waves. My parents at 11, my mother immediately clocking that something was different about me. Mothers have that radar for when their daughters are about to commit social homicide. The Mitchells at 11:30, bringing their famous pecan pie and blissful ignorance. Griffin's brother Wade and his wife Simone drove up from New Haven with their twin teenagers, Wade clapping Griffin on the back like brothers do, completely unaware that his sibling was about to become the family disgrace. And then, at noon exactly, Karina arrived with Emma and Lucas. She was wearing a cream-colored sweater dress that probably cost more than her divorce lawyer. Ironic, considering she'd cried poverty to me for months. Her kids ran in with the chaos of children who had no idea their mother was about to become the second act of a revenge tragedy playing out in real time. "Ruby!" Karina hugged me with the enthusiasm of someone who thought she'd gotten away with something. "Thank you so much for including us. You're such a good friend." "Well, you know what they say about keeping friends close," I said, hugging her back while making eye contact with Alma over her shoulder. Alma's expression suggested she was either going to burst out laughing or have a panic attack, possibly both simultaneously. Griffin's face when Karina walked in was a masterpiece of controlled panic. He went from helpful husband to man-facing execution in about 3 seconds, which would have been more satisfying if I wasn't also dying inside. Dinner unfolded like every Thanksgiving before it. Grace led by Sterling, turkey carved by Griffin with shaking hands that everyone attributed to hunger instead of guilt. Side dishes passed around with the usual compliments and family small talk. Karina sat directly across from me at our dining table, the extended version that seated 24 and cost us $2,000 3 years ago, smiling and laughing and playing her role perfectly. As people were finishing their plates and reaching for seconds, Emma asked if Griffin and I were going to have kids. "You'd be such a good dad, Mr. Griffin. You were so fun when you came over for movie night." The table went silent. Several people looked confused. Lorraine's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. My mother's eyes narrowed with the precision of a sniper acquiring a target. Griffin choked on his wine. Actually choked. "I, helped Karina move some furniture a few weeks ago. The kids must be remembering that." "No, it was last month when we watched Encanto," Emma continued, oblivious to the fact that she'd just handed me ammunition I didn't even need. "You made popcorn with extra butter, remember? And you said, 'Emma, honey, eat your turkey,'" Karina interrupted, her face the color of my cranberry sauce. Perfect timing. I'd been ready to launch my presentation anyway, but Emma's innocent revelation was the appetizer I hadn't even ordered. I stood up, wine glass in hand. "Before we move on to dessert, I wanted to share something. Griffin, you know how you're always saying I should use my marketing skills more creatively?" I smiled at him. The same smile I'd used at our wedding when promising to love and cherish him through richer and poorer, sickness and health, and apparently through hotel receipts and affair management. Well, I made a presentation. Heath, could you help me with the projector? What presentation? Griffin's voice had gone up an octave. Just a little something about architectural design and structural integrity. You know, your favorite topics. The lights dimmed. The projector hummed to life. And there it was, projected on my dining room wall in high definition. Slide 1. An architectural analysis of how my marriage collapsed. You could have heard a pin drop in a wind tunnel. Ruby, what is this? Griffin stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Sit down, Griffin. We're just getting to the good part. My voice was steady. Years of client presentations had prepared me for this moment. Everyone, please keep eating. This is informal. Think of it as dinner theater. Slide 2 appeared. A timeline starting in June with the words, "Foundation cracks. The beginning of structural failure." My father muttered something in Portuguese that probably violated several religious commandments. My mother grabbed his hand. Lorraine's face was turning an interesting shade of purple. Wade looked like he'd been punched in the stomach. I clicked through the slides methodically. Photos from the Cheesecake Factory, timestamp visible. Hotel receipts from the Marriott, the Fairfield Inn, the Holiday Inn. Text messages with the recipients' names highlighted. Griffin to Karina, Karina to Griffin. Location data showing Griffin's phone in Norwalk when he'd texted me from Boston. Ruby, stop this right now. Griffin was standing, his face white as chalk. Stop what? Sharing information. You love presentations. You give them all the time at Morrison & Associates. I advanced to slide 16, a text message where Griffin called me boring and predictable. Oh, look, here's some audience feedback about my performance as a wife. Karina stood up, grabbing her purse. I'm leaving. Kids, get your coats. Sit. Down. My mother's voice could have frozen hell. You came into my daughter's home. You're going to stay for dessert. Alma was filming on her phone. Heath was grinning like Christmas had come early. Wade looked like he wanted to teleport to another dimension. The Mitchells were clutching each other's hands, watching like this was must-see TV. Simone had one hand over her mouth, her teenagers staring wide-eyed like they'd stumbled into the season finale of a show they'd never watched. Slide 32. Photos from the Maritime Suite in Mystic that I'd wanted to visit for our anniversary. Griffin and Karina, champagne glasses raised, looking exactly like two people celebrating getting away with something. That was a work trip, Griffin tried weakly. To Connecticut? When you told me you were going to Boston for a conference? I pulled up slide 28, a screenshot of the conference website showing no registration for Griffin Mitchell. You weren't registered for any conference, Griffin. There was no conference. I trusted you enough not to verify, but Heath helped me check the records from your saved browsing history on our shared laptop. You just lied. Slide 46 appeared. The financial breakdown. $4,732 of our joint money funding his affair, itemized like an expense report for infidelity. You spent our money on this? Lorraine's voice shook. Our money that we gave you for the house down payment? That was news to me, but I tucked it away for the divorce proceedings. Sterling stood up. Griffin Michael, what have you done? Slide 47 appeared on the wall. Happy Thanksgiving. Dinner is served. I set down the remote. I want a divorce. I'm keeping the house since I've been paying 70% of the mortgage anyway. Surprise, I checked the account records. Karina, you can have him. Consider it my Thanksgiving gift. He's clearly very good at playing house with someone else's children. Griffin's mouth opened and closed like a fish on dry land. Ruby, please. We can talk about this privately. We're done talking. We're done lying. We're done pretending. I looked around the table at 17 witnesses to the death of my marriage. But please, everyone, have dessert. The pecan pie is supposed to be excellent. The pecan pie, for the record, was excellent. What happened after slide 47 became the stuff of Fairfield legend, the kind of story that gets whispered about at book clubs and PTA meetings for years. Griffin left that night with his parents, who looked at their son like they'd discovered he was actually a stranger wearing their child's face. Karina grabbed her kids and fled so fast she left her casserole dish behind. I still have it, actually, sitting in my cabinet like a trophy from a war I didn't want to fight, but definitely won. The divorce took 6 months, and I want to be clear about something. We never needed the hacked evidence. Griffin's lawyer took one look at the public humiliation. Alma's video had somehow found its way to several neighborhood Facebook groups. Funny how that happens. And the fact that 17 people could testify to his admission by silence and advised his client to settle quickly. The evidence Heath found from Griffin's poorly secured accounts on our shared laptop was just insurance we never had to use. Sometimes the court of public opinion is more powerful than any legal evidence. I got the house, the Lexus, 70% of our savings, and Biscuit. Though let's be honest, the dog was always more mine anyway. Griffin got his professional reputation slightly intact, which was generous considering Lorraine, in a fit of maternal rage and disappointment, wrote a strongly worded letter to Morrison and Associates expressing her concerns about her son's judgment. They quietly suggested he might find opportunities elsewhere more suitable to his needs. Turns out ethical lapses in personal life make clients nervous about ethical lapses in 7-figure construction projects. Who knew? Karina moved to Massachusetts 3 months after Thanksgiving. Apparently, Fairfield became uncomfortable when every woman at book club started treating her like she had a contagious disease. Last I heard, she's dating someone new, probably telling him all about her terrible ex-husband, and conveniently leaving out the part where she became someone else's terrible ex-wife. Griffin moved to New York City, got a job at a smaller firm, and from what Alma tells me, because she still keeps tabs like it's a hobby, he's dating a 26-year-old paralegal who definitely doesn't know about his track record. I'd feel bad for her, but I've learned that some people need to touch the stove themselves before they believe it's hot. 3 years have passed since that Thanksgiving, and the house feels different now. Emptier in some ways, fuller in others. I repainted the bedroom. Goodbye to the whisper gray Griffin insisted on. Hello to that deep teal I'd always wanted. The color I'd pointed out in magazines, the shade I'd loved since I was a kid, but had been too accommodating to insist on. I turned his home office into my creative space, filled it with plants and art supplies and all the clutter he used to complain about. Biscuit has his favorite spot by the window where he watches the neighborhood like he's conducting surveillance. I still host Thanksgiving. Took back the tradition last year with just my family and people who haven't committed fraud against me. Alma brings the casserole. Heath brings the wine and the reminder that technology tells the truth even when people don't. My mother brings her famous rice and the satisfaction of having raised a daughter who knows her worth. The thing about Betrayal is that it doesn't destroy you the way people think it will. It's not the dramatic explosion from movies where the protagonist falls apart and needs rescuing. It's quieter than that. It's standing in your kitchen on a random Tuesday, making coffee in your world's okayest wife mug. Yes, I still use it. The irony is too good. And realizing you're genuinely okay. Not fake it till you make it okay, but actually, fundamentally fine. I learned that trust isn't something you give freely and then feel stupid about when it breaks. Trust is just information. When someone shows you they're untrustworthy, that's data. What you do with that data determines whether you're a victim or a strategist. I learned that revenge doesn't have to be ugly to be effective. Sometimes it's just the truth, presented with good lighting and an HDMI cable. I learned that the people who truly love you will sit through a 47-slide PowerPoint of your pain and still ask if you need help with the dishes afterward. And I learned that happily ever after is a marketing slogan, but happily after is achievable if you're willing to redefine what happiness looks like without someone who never deserved to share it with you in the first place. Griffin texted me 8 months ago. Apparently 2+ years was his statute of limitations on shame, asking if we could talk as friends. I blocked the number. Some bridges aren't worth rebuilding. They're better as firewood. These days, I'm 41, single, mortgage-free, and running my own marketing consultancy from my home office that used to be Griffin's. I've got a golden retriever who doesn't lie to me, a sister who would commit felonies for me, and a brother-in-law who treats digital forensics like a competitive sport. I've got a house painted in colors I actually like, and the kind of peace that only comes from knowing exactly who you are when nobody's watching. And I've got one truly perfect Thanksgiving story that gets better every time I tell it. Some people build their legacy through children or careers or charitable works. Me, I built mine through 47 PowerPoint slides and the courage to hit play in front of 17 witnesses. Not all heroes wear capes. Some of us just know our way around Microsoft Office.